Hello and welcome to ETCV 621, Advanced Computer Applications. I'm Chris Johnson and I'm your instructor for this course. This short video will introduce you to the overall purpose of the course, the projects that you'll be working on, and how to navigate the course, since it'll be different than you're used to in other course management systems like Moodle or D2L. So let's start off with the purpose and the projects that make up 621. So here we are in the course Google site. You notice it is laid out differently than Moodle or D2L. The major portions of the course can be found in these tabs. And as you roll over the tabs, you'll notice you get a little blue line. Some of them will have drop-down menus for more information. Others will just have an individual blue line. Every time you enter the course, you'll come into the 621 home. The very first time you come into the course, I'll ask you to go through the Start Here section. This has some important information in getting started in the course, and it includes reviewing the course info of the syllabus, how to navigate the course, and information on the online meetings. Before we look at further navigation, let's look at the projects that make up this course. If I scroll over the projects, they'll be shown here. If I click on the tab, I'll see a list of them here. There are 10 projects that make up this course. However, the first and last are what I call my general projects. I always have a participating in class, which looks at you posting an introduction and participating in discussion forums, and also a final reflection on the course. Now, the overall purpose of this course is to introduce you to a variety of different computer applications, or digital tools as we now call them, and how they can be used to enhance learning. It is our traditional coding course in which we used to teach you HTML, but we don't do that anymore. You will look at how to do some coding yourself, because this is becoming an important topic for K-12 education and is now also getting into higher ed and into training. But you'll look at a lot of specific tools. And so in some instances, there may not seem to be a lot of coherence in terms of the tools, but look at it as an overall preparation to a number of different tools and a number of different ways you can use them. Where we do look at web development is in the do-it-yourself project. I'm going to ask you to think about something that you want to learn how to do. Do you want to learn how to create a Google site? Would you like to learn more about HTML? Is there something that you've been wanting to look at? You're going to create your own project and complete that project. And we'll talk about that later, a little bit later in the course. So those are the projects that make up the course. Within a project, the information is laid out with the purpose of the project, due dates, introductions, steps to completion, how to submit the project, any required elements, and the assessment. Also, I've added a little bit of navigation here so you can go to any of the projects. You'll want to check the due date. This one actually has two. You'll do an initial sharing of me of something called Evernote by Monday, January the 26th, and then you're going to enter notes into Evernote, and that has to be done by the last day of class. There will be an introduction and some steps to completion. Now, every once in a while, you'll see something like this. Anything that has a double exclamation mark is a mark to me that I need to do this before you all get to the sharing part of the notebook. And so guess what? That's the next step I'm going to be working on, but I wanted to do this welcome first so that you all could get started with the class. The important thing as always is the rubric at the bottom. Make sure that you look at the target level for each of the projects, because my expectation is that everyone will reach the target level in this course. So let's talk about how you can do that in terms of submitting assignments. Back up at the top, you'll see that there's a submit button that talks about submission of a project. It may be in a forum, it may be in a Google Drive. So we'll be using either forums in Piazza, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, or you'll be using Google Drives. But going to the syllabus, and I'll scroll down here. Again, you want to make sure that you look at all of these sections. I want to look at the policies on submitting a project. My late submission policy is this. You may submit a project up to 3 days beyond the original due date without any penalty. After that date, 10% is automatically deducted off of your project. But I know that you all are working professionals. Deadlines come up, you have sick children, sometimes you cannot submit a project, quote, on time. So if you let me know before the project is due, or within that 3-day grace period, you can set a new due date for the project. So if you tell me you're going to be late, I'll write you back and say, that's fine, when are you going to hand it in? And you tell me a week from now, tomorrow, whatever works for you. Also, you may resubmit a project as much as you'd like. So if you don't reach the target level on your first submission, you can resubmit projects up to the last day of class. The last thing I'd like to point out is network outage. Since we are heavily internet-based, if you have a network problem or you have a computer problem on the day a project is due, just let me know and we'll change the date. Now, I mentioned Piazza, and that's in the forums section. Instead of using discussion forums embedded in the Google Sites like we do in Moodle, we will be using a tool called Piazza, and you'll receive a separate video on how to use Piazza for the forum. So just know that the introductions forum, the help forum, any of the forums you will find in Piazza. Finally, I want to talk about the gradebook, or your status in the course. There is no gradebook built into Google Sites, so I'm going to be using a Google spreadsheet. For those of you that have taken courses from me in the past, you're familiar with this. This is how I keep up to date on the grading. When you have posted a project, I'll put an R that I've received it, and a G when I've graded it, and any of the points that you received. But please remember, this is a spreadsheet, so it's not real intelligent in terms of your final grade. It may say that you have an E in the course, but for each of the projects, you've performed at 90% or better. And that's just the mechanics of the spreadsheet. So as you go down each of the projects and that you see that you've gotten 90% or better, know that you're on the track for an A. Also sometimes, especially with discussion forums where I'm asking you to post on other people's work, the score may not make sense. For example, you may have 3 out of 40 points for an E, and the 3 was the fact that you posted something in the discussion forum. And I'm grading that separately from the item that I'm grading. So basically, if you see something in the spreadsheet that you're concerned about, just let me know and we'll work it out. So I look forward to working with you in 621. There's a number of interesting projects that I think you're going to have a lot of fun with.